Okay, continuing from part two, I want to display my openings on the job by hitting the F10 key, and it shows me that I have three openings in there: 101, 103, and 105. So let's take a look at 105, and just if you'll notice that the cursor is on the upper right hand, says enter opening number to process. It's right here on the right. I'll just enter 105 and key in 105 and hit the enter key, and it takes me directly to that opening detail screen. And I call this the opening detail screen because it talks about various things in the opening. So everything looks okay, and now we are ready to engineer these three openings. So let's begin. Down at the bottom, we are looking at the various options to what we can do. And the first thing we want to do is go to F12 to engineer doors. So we want to take a look at F12. Okay, in the screen, we are looking at the opening number 105. The type is single SGL. The hand is hand reverse. And the net width, you'll notice, has already been converted from a 2.6 to 29 and 3/4. The net height is blank. The elevation is one panel. The hardware set is 02. The material is wood. Over here it says the undercut is blank. The rating, there's no rating. And if there were a pair of doors, the handing, feel for the handing is in here. The net door width for if the unequal leaf of the pair, this is where you would put in the thickness, the face, the quantity, and the finish if the door requires a special finish. Now, before we talk about product codes, let's go down. Let's bypass that because I want to cover product codes in a different tutorial. And we are going to engineer this door. Now, engineering doors and or frames is basically converting the hardware product information into machining codes. So I said that this door has a hardware set of 02, and there's a number of ways you can approach it. But let's say you have a hardware set that calls for certain types of hinges, certain types of locks, certain types of closers, and certain types of flat goods. And so all that information we really don't need. All we need to know is what are we going to machine this door to. And so I'm going to use the first item I'm going to machine that door to is 4.5-inch hinges. And the weight of the hinge is 0.134. And then I'm just going to tab, and there's a field to put in a template number if we have it. And there is a product code field that we want to cost. Certain factories will charge based on machining preps. So we're going to leave that blank. And the pattern. And the pattern, you can create your own pattern or you use the standard patterns that's on the job. So here we're going to say it's a hinge pattern based on a 7.0 height and Fleming locations. So it's H. Actually, let me go back because it's a hinge pattern for door with 7.0 Fleming locations. HD 7.0 Fleming. And then the next thing we want to machine for, and let's call it a 161 cutout by 2 3/4 back set. Now 2 3/4 161, that's kind of redundant, but I'm just putting it in for and it's a cylindrical lock for 7.0 locations and Fleming locations, and then I'm going to hit the enter key. And so it now has described for me that 4.5-inch hinges at 7.0 Fleming locations, And this field on the right, quantity 1, I'll talk about in a few minutes. But let's look at the patterns, HD70 Fleming, and see where they are. So F3 down at the bottom here shows me the patterns. Okay, so HD70 Fleming is a standard pattern that I use that are for hinges at 7 locations and Fleming. So it already automatically brings it up to you. And I hit the page down key at the cylindrical lock for 7 Flemings is, I believe, 43 and 15/16. And that's the location that I'm using for the cylindrical lock for 7 Fleming. And I hit the enter key. F1 takes it out, and that's done. So we have now engineered that door. Oh, the other thing we hadn't done, I did an F1 to get out of it, and you'll see F105 still in there. Let me go down here, and in the sill undercut, let me put in 3/4. I'll hit the enter key, and then I'll go back to F12 to engineer that door. And because I put in the undercut of 3/4 of an inch, 3/4, it gave me a net door height already of 83 and 1/8. So that's how that is done for that door. That door is engineered. So I hit the enter key to record it, F1 to go back, and I want to go to 101. And 101 is an entry door, 2-panel entry door, 20-minute. So I hit the enter key to go back, and then do F12, and that information present itself. And I'm going to tab down, and let's see if we can utilize the dupe key. Now we don't want to dupe the quantity because that's a restricted field, so I'll hit the tab key and I'll dupe the others. Now I'm duping supposedly the previous openings, and let's hit the enter key and see what happens. So even though the hardware set is different, I duplicated the detail from the previous opening that I had engineered, and the patterns are there. You notice that the quantity says 2 because there are 2 openings that I use hardware set 01, so those 2 openings are already engineered. So I'm going to go back, F1, and the other door that I used was 103, so I had openings 103, 105, and 101. So 103 had hardware set 01, so it should be already engineered. By going to F12, it's already done. So this will conclude this session, and we'll look at this in more detail in our next session.